Hello and welcome to a special edition of Battle Cry. I'm Gaurav Sawant. Pakistan, our neighbor, is an absolute tailspin. It's a state sponsor of radical Islamist terror, but currently, whether it's politically, strategically, or economically, Pakistan remains in a tailspin, and it's desperately seeking another bailout despite not being able to comply with the conditions of the existing IMF or International Monetary Fund bailout. Now, Pakistan's Defence Minister, he's come up with a very bizarre statement, and he's making headlines in Pakistan when he claims 6 months from now, Pakistan will not need another bailout ever. Given Pakistan's, as he claims, proven defense technology, its JF-17 Thunder fighter jets that Pakistan is already exporting to some countries and is seeking more orders. Azerbaijan, Libyan rebel forces in Benghazi, countries like Bangladesh have shown interest in that fighter jet. So Pakistan claims this Chinese origin JF-17 Thunder is proven technology. Pakistan claims it's performed very well during Operation Sindoor. But let me tell you a little more about Pakistan's claims and facts, and also about the JF-17 Thunder. But first, listen in to Pakistan's Defence Minister Khawaja Asif's tall claims. Pakistan is the only country in the world that can claim victory after 9 of its terror bases, including in Pakistan's Punjab province, Muridke and Bahawalpur, were bombed by India. But these weren't the only places that were bombed in Pakistan. You've had Lahore hit, you've had Rawalpindi hit. That's never happened in the past. 11 air bases, radar stations decimated, and Pakistan is dancing. They claim it's victory for them. They've had multiple aircraft, including the JF-17s shot down, including F-16s and AWNC aircraft that were shot down. But let me tell you a little more about the JF-17 Thunder. Jointly developed by Pakistan Aeronautical Complex and China's Chengdu Aircraft Corporation, Pakistan claims the Block 3 version of the JF-17 Thunders. It's a 4.5 generation aircraft. That's what Pakistan claims. How much of this aircraft is actually made in Pakistan? Or is it, as many say, the CKD, SKD format, the completely knocked down and semi-knocked down kits brought in from China and then assembled in Pakistan? Because China is the principal designer and systems integrator. Pakistan, of course, does finally assemble this aircraft. The airframe, the design, the avionics, the radars, the weapons, they come from China, including, I'm told, the PL-15 long-range air-to-air missiles. The soul of the aircraft, the engine, comes originally from Russia. It's the RD-93. The avionics, the ejection seat, the electronic warfare components, they come from Turkey. There is some equipment that comes in from other European countries, some from the United Kingdom, but ultimately they're all assembled in Pakistan. Now, Pakistan claims the JF-17 Thunder has a combat radius with its internal fuel tanks about 900 kilometers, but with the external drop tanks extendable to about 1700 kilometers. It's capable of BVR or beyond visual range warfare. It has electronic warfare suites that completely changes the nature of the game and the price at which it comes. So it's capable of multi-role strike and patrol missions. But the question we're asking, is the JF-17 a game changer for Pakistan, and not just militarily or strategically, but even economically? Joining me on the battle cry, Air Marshal Anil Chopra, former fighter pilot himself, former Director General of Center for Air Pass Studies, a Mirage 2000 pilot. Air Marshal Sanjeev Kapoor, again a fighter pilot, former Director General Inspections and Flight Safety. And of course, my colleague Sandeep Unnithan, senior journalist. He writes extensively about aviation. Sandeep, we all just heard Khawaja Asif. Does the JF-17 Thunder Block 3 have the potential to change Pakistan's fortunes economically? It could not militarily during Operation Sindoor, but is Khawaja Asif actually, like Mungeri Lal ke Haseen Sapne, or is he more like Sheikh Chilli?
Absolutely, Gaurav. You have to take all of these claims that Khawaja Asif and indeed many of the Pakistani experts are making with a pinch of salt, rather a bagfuls of salt. They've been going around claiming that every country in the world is interested in buying the JF-17, from the Saudi Arabia to Bangladesh to Azerbaijan, but there's no concrete evidence of any of these sales ever materializing. It seems to be some very, very determined marketing spin to boost the fortunes of Pakistan and of course its JF-17 export. So I would tend to take these claims with literally bagfuls of salt. There's
Okay.
no concrete defense deals, no exports of the JF-17 so far. There's just a lot of hype, there's just a lot of bluster, a lot of propaganda, and that's exactly what Khawaja Asif's statements should be taken at, not
So
at face
he's
value.
misleading his own people. He intends to mislead others because Air Marshal Chopra, there were some reports that seem to indicate all the money that Saudi Arabia has given Pakistan as dole, as zakat, as surety to keep in their banks. Pakistan says, do not convert it into a loan. We'll give you JF-17 Thunders instead. Why would Saudi Arabia want substandard JF-17s if you think it's substandard, when Saudi Arabia can get the American F-16s, F-35s, whatever they want, they can get it. But your reading of the JF-17 Thunder and J-10Cs with the PL-15 air-to-air missiles, were they a game changer for Pakistan in Operation Sindoor? We spoke that time. But 8 months down the line, now that you've had time to assess the air battles and air-to-ground operations, your assessment of the JF-17 Thunders?
Gaurav, thanks for having me with you. And I must say that the Pakistan Air Force has been lambasted during the Op Sindoor. I think facts and figures and pictures, satellite pictures, everything is in open domain. So I think less said the better. We all know that JF-17 is at best a fourth generation aircraft. Even with the ISA radar, the Block 3 and with the PL-15 combination doesn't even become 4.5 because the rest of the design features are all of generation 4. The only advantage Pakistan has got is numbers. They have built about 185 JF-17s. Mind you, the aircraft has been designed by the Chinese. They started inducting as far back as 2010. They have about Pakistan Air Force itself has got about 160 aircraft. That's comprised. I went through the list of the Scottons. There are about 8 of them. So that's it. But what's the state of the aircraft? We all know it's got a Chinese radar, it's got a Russian engine. Of course, the Russians have signed a fresh deal now to give them more engines so their production won't come to a halt. Electronic warfare and various other things that you mentioned are not their own and it's coming from outside. You can say they are making some components, some airframe parts, and then they are assembling. That's what they are doing. It is relatively cheap. It has the backing of the Chinese. So therefore, there are more countries who are going to be, we all know that we have read about what Bangladesh has been keen. We all know Bangladesh Air Force desperately need to phase out the F-7Ps and Gs, which were there, the Chinese equivalents of MiG-21s. And they have been looking at, in the Hasina days, in the Awami League time, they were looking at the Su-30 and they were looking at the MiG-35. More recently, they also looked at the Rafale and Eurofighter, but they don't have that kind of money. And then now the Pakistanis, they want to create a dependency in Bangladesh, so they are coming full board with the
So
Chinese.
I'll come to Bangladesh and exports in just a moment. I want to stay on the aircraft for a moment longer, Air Marshal. And I want to bring in Air Marshal Kapoor, made in China. But China also is not too keen on the JF-17 Thunders. They rely more on J-10Cs and other aircraft. Sir, your assessment of the Pakistani fighter jet that Pakistan believes could be a game changer for it strategically, militarily, like we said, and of course economically.
Yeah, good evening to the fellow panelists and to your viewers. The Chinese have handed over not the state of art kind of a technology to Pakistan. They know that this country can go rogue anytime. Like I was covering on your program some days ago, that about 26 countries hold F-16s. And in America, they have an aggressor squadron of F-16 because in the past we have seen the F-16 from one country engaging in combat with F-16 of the other country, Turkey and Greece. So there may be a situation if things go south or if American pressure comes, someday the JF-17 may be pitched against some skirmish somewhere around. So that may be playing at the back of the mind. That besides, no country, I repeat, no country gives the best state-of-the-art equipment to any other country, and it is across the board. The F-22s are not given. It is the lower version of F-35s that are exported. The key technologies are withheld. Because, and it is everywhere globally. Russia also does that.
Specifically
so
on the
the
JF-17,
Chinese,
sir.
Yeah, coming to your point, the aircraft which the Pakistanis are manufacturing at Kamra are not as hot as what they claim. That is the first. Even our Tejas, with regards to sensors, EW, range, net-centric warfare, is way ahead. I'm not talking about Su-30s or Rafale in that matter. So these aeroplanes are, nowhere matched. Secondly, in Op Sindoor, the vulnerability has been exposed. So I'm sure at this stage, both the Pakistanis and the Chengdu Aircraft Corporation would be working on how to improve, the
Okay.
lethality of this platform, and that is my guess. And what Marshal Chopra just said is a point in their favor. They have numbers. They have
They have
numbers,
numbers.
and
Sandeep,
yes.
the JF-17s are now Pakistan's flagship military export, or so they want to claim. They claim they have a $4.6 billion deal with Azerbaijan. There's another $4.5 or $4.6 billion deal with the rebel forces of Benghazi in Libya. Then this potential deal that they're hoping they'll get with Bangladesh. Why would countries like Azerbaijan and the Libyan rebels want to get these aircraft unless they have no option, it's cheap, and at least they have a semblance of an air force?
Well, absolutely, Gaurav. If you're selling it to General Haftar's forces, the warlord who controls eastern Libya around Benghazi, then that is a UN-sanctioned territory. You can't sell any weapons to them, and the Pakistanis are selling it, because Haftar cannot afford any other aircraft. He can't buy any other aircraft. So this is the most easily available aircraft for him. And there are other forces at play. There are other countries who want Pakistan clearly to sell to the Libyan rebels. So he is trying to go and sell to places which no other country can sell because of UN sanctions or because they have no other option. They're selling it really cheap. These are Chinese aircraft, as our panelists have mentioned. These are entirely designed, developed, and manufactured by the Chinese. It's only the final assembly that takes place in PAF Kamra, so that keeps up Pakistan's boast that it is a Pakistani fighter. It is, for all practical purposes, a Chinese-designed, manufactured fighter with Russian engines, and Pakistan is just doing the final assembly, putting on the paint, and then trying and exporting it to all of these countries that it claims to do so, Gaurav.
Okay, Air Marshal Chopra, so Pakistan is the face. It's China that's truly increasing its sphere of influence in certain Muslim countries through Pakistan, whether it's in Africa like Libya or countries even in West Asia and now Bangladesh. And Pakistan believes, sir, that it could, touch the $10 billion mark plus increase its sphere of influence. Do you see that happen with Bangladesh, sir?
Let me quickly go over the countries which have bought. We all discussed that China will not buy this. It's a low-end aircraft, so China will not buy it. It's only for the other smaller countries. Myanmar bought 16 of them. They had to be grounded because they had skin cracks for a very long time. And in fact, Myanmar at one stage wanted to return these aircraft. Then Nigeria bought only 3. Actually, they were wanting much more. They actually wanted 15. So they have had teething problems wherever JF-17 has gone. And if you think Saudi Arabia who's having top of the line F-15s, etc., and including the EX-1, is going to buy a JF-17, no way. They won't even like to put it in a dustbin. So yes, Azerbaijan, Turkey, Pakistan is a nexus. It's a group of countries. So therefore, Azerbaijan is actually placed in order. They have already paid up close to $1.6 billion. So there are countries like we already discussed, Libya and some of these other smaller fellows. They are the only customers for JF-17, and all because of, now coming to Bangladesh, we all know that Bangladesh Air Force has got very few aircraft, total 45 fighters, out of which 36 are old generation F-7s, and they have got 8 MiG-29s, half of which are not serviceable. They desperately need aircraft. And with the change of the government, they switched from the Russian side to Su-30 and MiG-35 to now wanting, and mainly because after the Pakistan Air Force Chief Babar Sidhu went there, they've had they've been trying to push this dependency so that, they put pressure, create another front for India. But is Bangladesh going to take a decision in a hurry? No way. Bangladesh has too many pulls and pressures. Of course, there are a lot of Chinese equipment they have got, but even, the interim president is totally backed by the Americans. So therefore, there could
When
be
a
a lot
lot of that equipment is not working, a lot of that equipment, as you rightly pointed out, is grounded, not working, substandard, the Chinese equipment. But Marshal Kapoor, it's not just the aircraft, it's the entire life cycle cost, maintenance, training. Pakistan's also selling the trainer jets, to Bangladesh. Does that help, a state sponsor of radical Islamist terror increase its sphere of influence? And in a country like Bangladesh, that would be a cause for concern for India, because first the military moves in, ISI moves in, then Lashkar-e-Taiba, Jaish-e-Mohammed, other terrorists will move in. So India will have trouble on multiple fronts.
Absolutely. And India has been training the Bangladeshi airmen, sailors, jawans, and officers all along. Ever since 1971, when things stabilized, India has extended a hand of building up their armed forces. As we speak, a large number of Bangladeshi officers are doing staff course, higher command, NDC with us. So it is not that they don't understand our ecosystem. It is not that, but the nexus, in my appreciation, it's a strategic nexus that has been carved out between Pakistan, China, and Bangladesh. It is encirclement of India. And JF-17 is the right platform because that will give the Chinese a foothold to set up their, repair, service, MRO kind of a setup in Bangladesh. The Chinese top military leadership has visited Bangladesh. The Bangladesh leadership has visited China. The Turkish leadership has visited Bangladesh. The Bangladesh leadership has visited Turkey. So, like Air Marshal Chopra and Sandeep was saying, this is a drawing out of a new axis. So, this
Okay.
axis between Azerbaijan, Turkey, and Iran and Pakistan, and the second axis being formed is China, Pakistan, and Bangladesh. So
Okay.
the aerial platforms and the systems which you take, indicates the tilt. But how much of it will come after February 12 election and its results, and how much money Bangladesh would be able to, take out to pay for these equipment unless it's given as a soft loan. So I'm not
Unless
sure on that.
China to increase its sphere of influence, Sandeep, gives them a soft loan and then takes their territory like it did with Pakistan in China-Pakistan Economic Corridor, because these are cheaper aircraft, they're readily available, even if they're subpar, the capabilities when it comes to Bangladesh, clearly Bangladesh would only need a fighter jet vis-a-vis India, and that would be a cause of concern for us, Sandeep.
Absolutely, Gaurav. And this is bizarre because the Bangladesh Air Force, just in December, they signed a letter of intent with Leonardo in Italy to buy Eurofighter fighter jets. Where are they going to get the money to buy all these top-end Western fighters? They possibly cannot even afford the JF-17. But as Marshal Chopra mentioned, that there is this, fear that China could actually enter Bangladesh, could set up MROs. Marshal Chopra mentioned that as well. The fact that they could actually come over there, set up shop, and get these three countries closer in a way that they have not been in several decades now. The fact is that Bangladesh has been a top user of Chinese equipment, but now with Pakistan entering this, nexus, getting in heavy industry, Taxila is about to set up armored vehicles there in Bangladesh. China already has a submarine base which it's built near Chittagong. It's already sold submarines to the Bangladesh Navy, and that submarine base is of greater concern to India. So you're looking at a collusive, Pakistan, China, Bangladesh nexus that's developing. And the worst thing is that, Gaurav, if there is some kind of a mutual defense pact between these countries, then we've got something seriously, afoot to worry about.
Okay, but are we getting ahead of ourselves on a mutual defense pact just as yet? But as you rightly point out, Sandeep, it's a cause for grave concern. But Marshal Chopra, one, it increases the challenge for us even on our eastern front. So far, you were only thinking about the threat of radical Islamist terrorists that Pakistan, ISI, Lashkar-e-Taiba, Jaish-e-Mohammed would try to train and arm and launch across our eastern flank. But the threat of fighter jets on the eastern front, is that something, and especially around the Siliguri corridor, is that a cause for grave concern for India?
Yeah, Gaurav, I think we have to wait and watch. One is the election results. The BNP's new president is young. Had Western education. He wants to get the country into shape. It is heading for radicalization. He's trying to get, if he wins, he'll try and get, the country into order. Awami League is also, they're talking to Awami League. In fact, they might support each other in this election to against the radicals. So all kinds of things are evolving, but certainly our security establishment in the country is looking at this. We have looked at the chicken's neck, so-called chicken neck of India, and also the chicken necks of Bangladesh, which are
Yes.
much more vulnerable than ours. Uh, uh, in any case, Indian Air Force and Indian military has strengthened eastern flank. We have to cater for the northern threat. So therefore, we had already put a lot of things in place. But any nexus between the three of them, certainly between Pakistan and Bangladesh, and in Bangladesh, we would have to, shift our forces accordingly. And there is a thing for worry.
My pleasure.
You know,
When
the
will we
last
try?
1 minute I have on this part of the show, Marshal Kapoor, I want to quickly talk about their JF-17 Thunders and the way they've been able to get it off the block vis-a-vis our Tejas, better aircraft, but our troubles in especially getting numbers for ourselves, those challenges remain for us.
The limiting factor today is the G404 engines. And the deal which was signed about 20 years ago, it was not envisaged that the turn of events will take in such a way that 20 years later we would be waiting for the engines that have been paid for and approved and waiting delivery. So certainly we are lacking here. That's what Marshal Chopra and Sandeep said, that the numbers are in their favor of the Tejas. We have a long way to go. But the eastern part, answering your previous this thing, we have a vulnerability around Siliguri. They too have a vulnerability at two places in Bangladesh geographically.
Yes.
One is along Chittagong, Tirupura, that's about 28 kilometers, and along Rangpur area of Bangladesh, the whole distance from one end to the other is 80 kilometers. So it is not that we are not aware and we are not prepared. It is just that, as Master Chopra said, things will unfold in February, and see how things go around in March, the policy formation. And better sense should prevail, and the radicalization part should be, and then we could across the table sit and discuss our defense strategies.
And sadly, with some of these situations, like with Pakistan, better sense can never prevail. With Bangladesh, we're still hopeful better sense will prevail because they're far more evolved than the people in Pakistan that like history has shown us. But the 30 seconds that I have, Marshal Chopra, Tejas versus JF-17 Thunders, they've been able to get them off the block. We still have troubles.
That's it. It's a class apart between Tejas and JF-17, but you said they have got it off the block. Their numbers are here. Our numbers have still to come, and they are still far. The air chief has said he wants 24 aircraft minimum a year. In fact, ideally now you need, with the backlog, about 30 aircraft a year if you really want to catch up. So numbers are important. Is G404 the only issue? I only hope that there is no other delay as far as the rest of the integration is concerned. And certainly the Indian government is speaking very closely with GE to get the numbers up very, very quickly. I believe only 12 engines are going to be delivered this year. But the year after that, 24 are expected, and I only hope it happens.
Fingers crossed, because remember, to be forewarned is to be forearmed. And that's our job, to ensure that everyone is in full picture of what's happening around us. Air Marshal Chopra, Air Marshal Kapoor, and Sandeep for joining me here on this Battle Cry special broadcast.